Then the question is, all right, are we going to do this or is someone else going to do this? Are you going to go through a vended process where you hire professionals who will come in and they can take it from script to screen, or they can handle small processes along the way? Or is it something you can handle internally? You have your staff for it. You pay people for this. You invest in the equipment, and you can produce this together yourselves. There's no right or wrong way at all. In fact, there's many ways where things get collaboratively worked together. So when you work with a vendor, it can be worked in total, or there's definitely an a la carte option. It can be the point where you guys do your own shooting, or someone else does the shooting, and you have an internal staff that can edit this together. Or you lead the production. You write it, you have your message crafted, and you just want someone to execute the visuals. Or you put everything together and you just want somebody to post it up on YouTube. I mean, any part, you will find a vendor to work with you. The idea is knowing what your strengths are, knowing how much time you have, knowing how much you want to deal with quality. All of those can kind of come into play. And so there are a couple of different factors that kind of go into your decision. It's cost, quality, knowledge, and time. Cost, kind of obvious. You may have a budget to spend. You may not. You may have to deal with what you've already purchased internally, and you want to use that. The cost for, obviously, vending out will cost you. That interview set that you saw, where we show the different stages of an interview, that can range in cost anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on the equipment used, depending on the staff that's there, depending on are you shooting HD, are you shooting standard def. Those can add up, especially if you're interviewing just one person. If you're interviewing a whole bunch of people throughout the day, it could still cost between $1,000 and $3,000. And those can add up, and then the editing costs that come along with it. Quality, we talked about it a little bit. Are we looking for this to be more grassroots? Are you looking for this to be more employee generated? Are you looking for this to be high end? Is this your CEO opening up the new diversity, global diversity plan across the board? Do you want to shoot HD? Are we looking to wow people? And are we looking to make this almost like a movie set? These are decisions that come into play. And if you want to do them, maybe you have to hire out. If you don't need to do it and you have the staff internally, you can do it that way. It's a factor in your decision on whether to choose a vendor or not. Knowledge is interesting. And this is one where you really, you're the keeper. And if you are to use a vended service, or even if you're even to use your own internal production staff, remember your message, who your target audience is, what the results are, what you're looking to have. You share that knowledge, and you've got to disseminate it to the people who are executing it. So, do they understand your message? At EFX, we call ourselves, we're really, really, really great at cocktail parties. We have cocktail party information, because we absorb what we can in the projects we deal with, which gives us about 5 good minutes on things like composite decking. Or if you're looking for the new global diversity program for food and facilities management, I can talk a good 5 minutes about that, because we've worked on that project. At the same time, we've been immersed in it, and after about 5 minutes at a cocktail party, you're going to bore somebody to death about it. But you were immersing yourselves in that project. Make sure the folks who are working on that are just as knowledgeable on this. And that could be an internal staff. That could be, if you're dealing with your production staff on your communications team, and the new folks from engineering have this message they need to get out, your staff need to be absorbed with that. So the idea of knowledge. And maybe your internal staff knows just as much, because they've worked on these series before. So they have that knowledge where a vendor would not. That's one of the factors. And of course, time. Maybe someone else is going to do this quicker because they can dedicate it. Maybe you've got ample time and have a series of things that you need to get across where your own internal staff can handle it, if you have the internal staff. And if you feel like writing it yourself, that's great. You can be there and produce it and spend the time to go along with it. Or you have 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks, and that's when the meeting is, and you've got to write everything, and you've got to make sure that all the presentations are done, and you can't worry about the video. All of these are factors that come into play on should you choose a vendor or not. And a lot of it is, sometimes they're made for you. The cost decision may be made for you. The quality decision may be made for you. And so these are factors that come into play when you decide how to put your team together. So don't be afraid. I think the biggest thing is what's going to be the roadblocks? What are going to be the speed bumps? And there are 2 areas where the hindrances that I say come into play, and that's internal and external. Internally, when it deals with dealing with your own staff, Because as much as we all want the autonomy to put this together, a lot of times we are subject to others' discretion. We all have bosses. The budget. Someone mandates we do a 10-minute presentation on this, and I want shoots everywhere, and we're going to fly folks to Tokyo to interview that office, and we're going to go over to San Francisco, and we're going to put this together, and it's going to be epic. And we're going to do it for $2,000. Yeah, you're going to have a come to budget meeting with that. That's where those, I have to do it this, and we have to get these people in, but I can't have another shoot. These are factors that come into play that are the stressors on the internal communication staff. Communication also, you're going to find there's going to be a little bit of give and take in terms of getting that message across. Because you also have internal clients. You are doing this for someone else within your organization. And so what is their message? Are you guys on point with what they need? Are you walking over and saying, okay, engineering, you need what? And what's your message? And I need to make sure that you're on point. And then you go off and you create that video. And then they come in and look at it and go, that's great. But that's not what I wanted. It's another idea of making sure you're internally communicating well, and keeping clear with your staff. Keeping clear with the folks you need to work with back and forth, that even your internal clients don't turn around and say, yeah, that's great, but I don't like the blue shirt. Making sure that they're on message. Externally, it also comes down to communication. Making sure that those vendors, if you choose to go out and hire those vendors, that they are understanding your message. It's back to where I talked about when I talked with cost, quality, knowledge, and time. Are they understanding? Do they have that knowledge you need? And when it comes to communication, are they doing what you expect them to do? The biggest fear we find with many of our clients is not in terms of getting the message right, but in terms of that fear of what's going on. It's been 3 days. Did everything go okay? And all it is a reassurance that we say, yes, things are fine, we're on schedule, we don't have any questions, we needed these materials, you sent it to us, and we're on path. And you can even through an email, you can hear the sigh of, okay, I can go back to doing everything else I need to do. But in terms of that communication, that's a roadblock. That's where you wonder, are they doing what we've hired them to do? So it's just a little bit of communication that can ease those fears and let you do everything else you need to do. And the same thing in terms of message, clarity of message. Are they understanding where we need to understand? Can I see where you are right now? Just to make sure you're on message. Because I'd rather you take one step in the wrong direction and have me tell you, oop, you're in the wrong direction, so you can go back to where you need to go, than letting you go on for a few weeks and taking 3 steps in the wrong direction, and then having to do all the different editing and spend all the other money that you'd need to go back and change. So it's just, and I know it's funny, how many times do we joke about communicating effectively, and we work in communications, but just a little bit of keeping tabs on where everybody is keeps you efficient and keeps your message effective.